Good afternoon. I really want to thank you for attending this RTD General Manager and CEO update session. As some of you know, we do these occasionally on different kinds of topics and things throughout the year, and I really felt it was important for us to give an update at this point in time on the University of Colorado A-Line, B-Line, and G-Line, and where we are concerning the different things that you've been hearing about from our partners in the regulatory world and some other things. So thanks for being here, number one. I also want to acknowledge we have a couple of board members, I believe, in the room, Lorraine Anderson, Director Lorraine Anderson, and Director Natalie Minton back there. So thanks for being in attendance. We appreciate you being here. We also have RTD's Concessionaire from Denver Transit Partners, our contractor for the University of Colorado A-Line, B-Line, and G-Lines, and their Executive Director, John Thompson, is here with us as well. So this afternoon, what we're going to do, I'm just going to walk through a briefing that I've prepared. I think we've got about 30 minutes scheduled for this session today, and so we should have a reasonable amount of time for me to take some questions of you before we wrap it up and move on to other things. So that's the plan. So if you'll be patient with me to just get through some background information and update them, we can respond to your questions. So RTD continues to operate safe and reliable transportation services throughout the entire Denver metropolitan area. Safety, service, and reliability are our core values. The University of Colorado A-Line and B-Line are in revenue service operations and will continue to provide safe, trustworthy, and reliable service. Both lines are exceeding ridership projections, and with the University of Colorado A-Line for September of 2018, our average weekday boardings are about 24,000 per day. So very, very good ridership on the A-Line. And then also with the B-Line, the ridership on that line is doing well also with 2,200 average weekday boardings or ridership in the month of September of 2018. And because of the success and demand on the University of Colorado A-Line, RTD will be doubling the capacity on the Waivers Colorado A-Line beginning in January of 2019. We'll be doing that by adding 2 additional cars to every 2-car consist that's out there today. So essentially, every 2-car train that's operating today will turn into a 4-car train, thus doubling our capacity on the line. And we're doing that just to address the demand and the success of the line. We want to provide the best possible service and responsive service that we can to our patrons. And that's about a year earlier than we anticipated we were going to add capacity to the line. Our original plan called for us to do that in 2020. So about a year out in advance of those ridership expectations. The lines also experience a high degree of reliability, just over 97% on-time performance when we look at both the University of Colorado A-Line and the B-Line combined. That's a great performance standard, and to remind everybody, that means that the train is within 5 minutes of its scheduled time. That's on-time performance. So our passengers can trust that we'll continue to provide safe and reliable service, and that's what we're going to do. So next, I just want to walk into the correspondence that we received from the Federal Railroad Administration and talk about that a little bit and our response. And I believe most people are aware of that correspondence that we received in mid-November from I'll use the acronym FRA for the Federal Railroad Administration. And it was regarding the University of Colorado A-Line, the B-Line, and the G-Line. They talked about some general compliance issues. But the main item for us to address, and we've discussed this with the FRA, is really the crossing warning times. So we have responded. The FRA asked us to respond within a 30-day time frame, and we did that last Friday. We submitted an action plan, a crossing warning time action plan. And I really want to commend the RTD team and the DTP team. This was a lot of work and a lot of effort and a very collaborative and iterative process to develop a very comprehensive plan, and I think we've got a good plan, and I'm confident we're going to work through that successfully with the FRA. The FRA has acknowledged that they've received the plan and that they've begun their initial review, and I will be going to FRA headquarters on Thursday along with some members of the DTP team, and we'll be meeting with the FRA to kind of talk through the plan a little bit. So I'm looking forward to that meeting. So let me talk a little bit about the main issue of the letter and what the action plan addresses. And I intend not to get into too much detail today. I know that we've been receiving some questions on a very detailed nature about some of the technical aspects of the plan, and what we're planning to do is, after we've had some time to work with the FRA and our other partners on this, we'll come back to you and we'll put on a more technical session that will be maybe more of kind of a workshop presentation where we can really get into the detail on the technical matters as they progress. So what we're really focused on is the program warning time, or the crossing warning time. And so let me just give a little bit of an explanation on that, because it's important that we're clear in what the design is and what the projection is for how the grade crossings function. So the main issue is the difference between what we call the programmed grade crossing activation warning time and the actual train arrival time at the crossing. And I'll provide an example. So let's say the program warning time at a particular crossing is 30 seconds. So that means that that time frame is the time between when the grade crossing activates, meaning that the lights begin to flash, the bells start to sound, and the gates begin to come down, and when the train arrives at the crossing. So 30 seconds. In our case, the FRA and the Public Utilities Commission approved a buffer time around that activation time of -5 seconds or plus 15 seconds. So for this example, in a 30-second, for program warning time of 30 seconds, that means we can arrive at the crossing from 25 seconds after activation all the way up to 45 seconds after the activation. And well over 90% of all activations and arrivals happen within these parameters. And in most cases, if we have something that comes outside of the buffer time, it's on the plus side. It's a very rare occasion that we get something that is on the minus side. So in that example of 25 to 45, we have we have very few, if any, arrivals that are before that 25 seconds. So I want to be clear on that, because that's an important safety distinction. So well over 90% of all activations happen within these parameters. And in fact, we did include a 3-day data set in the plan that we submitted to the FRA. And in that data set, and this is for the University of Colorado A line and for all the crossings that are on that line, and that data set shows that 6 crossings are operating at better than 95%, 2 are right at or about 95%, 2 are just over 93%, and 1 is at 88%. So this is information that was gathered after, these dates are after the letter from the FRA, and they're after a couple of improvements we actually made to 2 grade crossings. One was at Holly and one was at Monaco, and those improvements, it really improved those 2 crossings in particular. So I described that of most of them that fall outside, it's a longer activation time than is desired. And so the crossings are working, they're providing the warning and the safety they're designed to do. They come down when they're supposed to, everything activates, everything works. Our goal is to continuously improve on that arrival time so that we can minimize the number of those extended times. And the issue with extended times is, even though we have quad gates, flashing lights, bells, signage, all kinds of warning and protective devices, the concern is that we don't want people to get frustrated and make an action, a grade crossing user make an action that they shouldn't. So we're confident in getting back to the action plan. We're confident in the action plan that we put together and that we submitted, and we look forward to working with the FRA to address their concerns. So now I just want to kind of walk through a little bit of where exactly are we with the quiet zones first, and then I'll get into the major steps that we need to complete towards opening of the G line. And I'll just say I don't have any dates in here because we don't know the dates. It's a work in progress, so we'll just let you know right up front. I don't know the date of the opening of the G line. It's priority number 1 around here, and I don't know the date of when we're going to get the quiet zones, but I can tell you where we are in the processes. So first, let me talk about the quiet zones on University of Colorado A line and on the G line. So on the B line, there's only 1 grade crossing, and that's not intended to have a quiet zone. It's in an industrial area. So first of all, federal rules regulating commuter rail operations require that all trains sound their horn at a grade crossing unless you establish a quiet zone through the quiet zone procedures. And I won't get into those in detail, but that's an important thing to understand, because it's not just RTD's commuter railroad that uses horns at grade crossings, or because of the situation we're in under the waiver or anything like that. All railroads that are regulated by the FRA, unless they have a quiet zone, are required to use their horns at a grade crossing. And that's a very prescriptive requirement in terms of, because we get questions around, well, can you use a different horn? Could it be less loud? And the answers to that is no, because we have to meet the decibel requirements that are in the FRA rules. So they're very prescriptive requirements, and it's not only about decibels, but also the way and the manner in which the horn is to be activated. That cycle is spelled out in the rules as well. So we have to do it, and we're not unique in that regard. So we are working towards getting the quiet zone. So we planned for, in our environmental documents, and we designed the University of Colorado A line and the G line to have quiet zones. And as you all know, we've been very delayed in obtaining the quiet zones on the A line. And I know it's frustrating, believe me. I know our patrons, I know the community's frustrated, and we're here at the organization are frustrated as well. So here's where we are in that process. The FRA responded to RTD that our system does not provide constant warning time. So with that determination, we applied for a waiver for constant warning time for the grade crossings. That's the process we're in right now. So the waiver request for constant warning time for the University of Colorado A-line grade crossings in Denver, because keep in mind the quiet zones are organized and really submitted by the local jurisdiction. So there's some reasons that for the approach. So the waiver for constant warning time for the crossings in Denver posted in the Federal Register, and the 45-day comment period was closed some time ago. The only comments that I'm aware of were all favorable. Yeah, let's put the quiet zones in. So that's good news on those crossings. There's 2 crossings on the A line that are in Aurora, and our waiver request for constant warning time for those was posted in the Federal Register on November 16th, and that comment period closes on December 31st. Regarding the G line, we have submitted a waiver request for constant warning time on the G line grade crossings for the crossings that are in Arvada and in Wheat Ridge. So that was submitted to the FRA on November 16th. The FRA posted that notice in the Federal Register on December 13th, and the comment period closes on January 28th. The waiver request for constant warning time on the G-line grade crossings in Adam County will be submitted this week. Hopefully it's already been submitted. I haven't checked with our legal group yet, but our plan was to get it in early this week. So after closing of the comment period, the FRA will consider the approval of the waivers. Then the next step, assuming the waivers for constant warning time are approved, the next step is to file the notice of establishment for quiet zones, and this is something we do jointly with the municipalities. Once the notice of establishment is filed, there's a 21-day period for FRA to either comment or object. If there are no objections or comments from the FRA that we have to work through, then the quiet zones are established 21 days after the notice of establishment. And we stand ready with the local jurisdictions, RTD and DTP, and our local jurisdictions. We have all the information ready to file those notices of establishment as soon as the waivers are approved. Now, what's the status of those waivers with the FRA? So the FRA has made it clear when we received the letter in November that our pending requests are going to be pending until they have an opportunity to review the plan and make a determination on the plan. So even though we're kind of down the road pretty far, especially with the grade crossings in Denver on the University of Colorado A-line, that comment period has been closed for some time. We need to address the FRA's concerns with our action plan, and we're going to do that before they'll make determinations on these waivers. But it was a suggestion of theirs that we actually apply for these waivers for constant warning time. All right, I'm going to switch now towards what are the steps left for the G-line to get into revenue service. And so there's still a number of regulatory approvals in that process, and it's a bit complicated because there's kind of 2 regulatory paths, because we have 2 regulatory agencies that we're working with. There are certain approvals that will come from the Federal Railroad Administration, and there are certain approvals that will come from the Colorado Public Utilities Commission. So RTD being a commuter railroad, this operation being a commuter railroad, unlike light rail, is regulated by the FRA, and that's why we're under FRA jurisdiction. But the Colorado Public Utilities Commission has the authority for highway, rail, grade crossings in Colorado. So they are the body that makes the determination. We submit an application into the commission, says this is how our grade crossing is designed and how it's projected to work. And it's up to the commission to review those documents and give us final approval that the grade crossing is acceptable as it's designed, and then also we have to demonstrate out that it is performing as designed, and then the commission will review and approve that before they will give us their final approval. So there's two paths and a little interdependency on a couple of items, but I wanted to be clear about that. So where we are on the G line, DTP continues to optimize and adjust the grade crossing timing. We have submitted 5 days worth of data to the FRA for their consideration, and that is also a pending request. But once we get the timing optimized to what we think is an acceptable level, then the grade crossing activation time, the actual performance in the field needs to be verified. And this will be done by staff from the Colorado Public Utilities Commission and then also staff from the Federal Railroad Administration. Then the remaining steps I'll do the FRA first, includes the following main steps. Field verification of the grade crossing timing. We have 15 or 16 crossings on the G line. We need to have approval to enter revenue service demonstration. This is related to positive train control. And we have asked for FRA to do the field verification. We've asked them to grant us a revenue service demonstration. And then also the next step would be to add the G line or amend the current University of Colorado A line and B line operating waiver to include the G line. So the G line would be on the same waiver as the other two lines is our anticipation. And then approval of quiet zones. So that's the FRA path towards opening of the G line. The PUC process, similar but a little bit different. Field verification of the grade crossing timing. So we anticipate that the PUC team will be working through that maybe over the next few weeks and out there observing our trains while we're in testing mode and running the simulated schedule. And then if once the PUC staff is satisfied that we have good data, meaning that the grade crossings are performing well, then they will submit that. The staff will submit that to the commission. RTD, we will submit our final certification paperwork, and once the G line is added to the waiver, then all of that information can be heard by the PUC commissioners on the PUC docket, and once that is approved, then we would be ready to open the G line. So two kind of parallel regulatory processes, some similar activities to do throughout, and that's exactly where we are in the process. There's really nothing more that I can say or speculate about the time that this is going to take, or dates, or the schedule, or when we will receive an approval of the plan from, or approval or even a determination from the FRA. I don't know what that time frame is. I think it's very encouraging. We're going out to meet with the Federal Railroad Administration. We offered with our submittal of the plan that we'd be happy to go out there and present the plan and then answer any questions or clarifications to the plan that there may be. We want this to be a collaborative process with them to make sure they understand everything we have in the plan. And FRA has been a great partner with us in terms of making recommendations and things that they want to see. So we look forward to that process. So this is where we are today. One thing I want to talk about is updates. We intend to provide additional updates, and as frequently as we have meaningful information to provide. We'll be doing events like this. Of course, we'll be using our website. I think many of you probably know that the action plan is available on the Cora section of the RTD website, and we plan to be making our updates all available in that location, if not just on the regular website, so they're easier to find. So we'll be posting updates there. And we continue to work diligently with our partners, DTP, the FRA, the Public Utilities Commission, to solve our remaining issues, get our quiet zones in place, get the G line open. And in the meantime, I just want to assure everyone we'll continue to provide safe and reliable service on the University of Colorado A line and the B line and the entire family of RTD services. So now I'm happy to take a few questions, and we'll try to keep some order so everybody has. I want everybody to have an opportunity. We'll just kind of start here and work back. Yes.
So it sounds. Is RTD still interested in finding a technological fix for the crossing gate issue, or is it no longer a matter of technology? And what I mean by this is, in 2.5 years, so if the technology exists to fix it, it seems like it's been fixed by now. Or are we really just trying to make this work under whatever agreement FRA will allow it? You see what I'm saying? Is it a technology issue, or is it really just trying to sort of squeeze under the?
So let me try to rephrase it a little bit. So is our approach going to be just working with the existing technology, or are we going to be considering doing some changes to that? Is that fair enough?
Does technology exist? Does a fix exist?
And does a fix exist? So our action plan addresses our current design. There's a variety of different items that we will be advancing and working towards. Some of those will be working on the same technology that we have. I want to point out that it's not just one thing. We've got a variety of different things in the action plan, and and we're at the point now. So some of the data that I gave you earlier about where some of the A-line crossings are operating at 95, 96, some of them are at 98%, right? So the changes that we'll be making will be fairly incremental, and it'll involve a variety of things. Some will be adjustments to the current technology. We'll be looking at, are there some other things that we could possibly do to make some enhancements? But it's not going to be like a wholesale change in anything.
I'm talking about just the technology portion, though, of the problem. Does that technology exist, or does that technology have to be found? You know what I'm saying?
Well, I can say, so is the technology exist, or can it be found? I will say that this really is state-of-the-art technology. There are other railroads that are very interested in doing the same exact thing that we are doing with our technology. It's very common kind of a use outside of the U.S., but I can tell you that the railroad industry is very interested in this wireless crossing technology and are very excited to be implementing this technology on their railroads, and we know of a couple of railroads that are in the works right now. Your question in the back then.
What role did RTD have in the construction of the Union Station Canopy and any of the development going on there that are causing GPS problems with the train?
So what role did RTD have in the design of the canopy at Union Station and the development around Union Station? So the canopy was part of the design-build contract when all of the transit elements were built, and designed and built, and that project was actually, we were a partner in that project, but that design-build contract was managed by DUSPA. And then the development all around Union Station's been a variety of different organizations involved in that. One would have been Union Station Neighborhood that was the master developer on kind of working on development plans and things around there, and a variety of others.
But anywhere along the way, did RTD say, man, if that building's there, that's going to ruin line of sight for something that we need for this positive train control to work the way it's supposed to?
Not to my knowledge.
You said there was no date or timeline for the July permit, but action plan called for first quarter of 2019.
Yeah, we think it's possible. We think the first quarter is possible, and we're working towards that. Yes?
Do you know yet if the same contractor that did the A-line will be used for the
I'm sorry, so could you be a little bit more specific in terms of operating it?
yeah, building and operating it?
Yeah, so the question was, is the same contractor going to be used for the G line? And it's one big concession agreement that we have. It's a public-private partnership. It's a 34-year contract or concession agreement with Denver Transit Partners. And their scope was to partially finance, design, build, and operate and maintain the A line, the B line, the G line, including a new maintenance facility, all of the infrastructure, and all of the rolling stock, or all of the trains.
What about the N line?
The N line is being designed and built under a completely different contract. So at the time that at the time in 2010, when when we awarded this project, the concession agreement for what we call the Eagle project, the A, B, and G lines, we weren't sure whether we were going to have the capital funding to build the N line. And so that's not part of the big concession agreement. So it's a design build contract under another joint venture that is working that project, and then RTD will be the operator of that line. Yes?
If there's no date being set for the G line, how can RTD or DTP or really anyone be held accountable for the delays that continue to go now into the multiple years?
So if there's no date set, how do we do accountability? So we have, as part of the action plan, we do have an oversight plan that we will be presented to the FRA, and how we'll be providing oversight of the action plan, and then also at a minimum monthly reporting to the Federal Road Administration. And of course, I report at least weekly to our board of directors on progress that we're making, challenges that we're facing. I mean, we are focused. I'm not kidding when I say it's priority one for us to deliver the G line and get these quiet zones done. It's our number one priority around here. Anyone else? Someone else who hasn't asked a question want to? No? Okay, we'll go here and then there.
And how does mentoring and training, which is listed in the plan, how does that work with the positive training control issue? How will that help?
Yeah, how does mentoring and training work or help with the positive train control? And that really goes towards when you have new operators, just working with them very closely so they get as comfortable as they possibly can with the system. And you know, regardless of what operators are operating, whether it's our commuter lines or light rail lines or buses, there's always a time for employees to get very comfortable. So mentoring and coaching and training is important to just make sure they have every tool available to them and updates so that they can be the best they can.
Aren't they already trained and forward to do it?
Yeah.
When they
Oh,
take
certainly.
steering wheel?
Certainly, but professional development, just like it is for all of us, is an ongoing adventure, and the training program is very rigorous. I know on light rail and the bus side, for example, it's at least a 6-week minimum training program. But our training doesn't stop there. We do refresher training, we do coaching, we do mentoring. We want the employees to be the best they can possibly be. Yes, and then I'll continue.
References in that plan about an express route, and if I'm reading it correctly, that some changes to the crossing would put the express route in jeopardy. What's the express route, and why not make changes to fix the current problem instead of protecting something that doesn't exist yet?
So let me try to paraphrase that. So the plan mentions something about an express route. Why worry or work on fixing this express route when you could be looking at other things? Is that fair enough?
You could make
Yeah.
some changes to the
Yeah.
crossings that would address the current concerns from the FRA, but it said something about how that would eliminate the option of expression.
So we currently don't operate an express train in revenue service. An express train would be, a train that would start at a point and go to another point and not stop at all the stations in between. And for a variety of reasons, we don't operate an express train. But for terms of, at least in revenue service, but in terms of for maintenance or for moving trains around in a non-revenue mode, there are benefits to having express movements to save time and things on that. So that is somewhat built in, but we think that there could be we need to analyze this more closely, but there could be an opportunity to make some adjustments, maybe not just to the express movement, but the speed of that express movement that could get us some improvements.
Is there a date for a possible revenue express?
We have no plans to run express revenue trains. Yes, Director Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Genova. My constituents are concerned about quiet zones and how quickly you will get that done. We have people living within 100 feet of crossing. I have 2 questions. So that's number one. My number one question is, you will not go into revenue service without quiet zones. Is that correct?
So let me let me paraphrase where we are and then cover your first question, and then we'll get into your second. So Director Anderson has expressed concern about her constituents in her area along the G line, and the fact that we are operating the trains with the horns during testing, and what is our process and time frame to get the quiet zones. And then I think more importantly is your first question to that is, will we have quiet zone? Do we need to have quiet zones in place to open revenue service on the G line? Our current interpretation of our final environmental impact statement is that yes, we do need quiet zones on the G line to open for revenue service. So that is our plan right now. And I think that Director Anderson, and many know, but we did reduce our testing schedules. I mean, the contract requires that we run the simulated service for the entire schedule, but right before Labor Day, right after August, when we saw some of the testing results, we decided to, I got together with the team, the RTD team and the DTP team, and I said, is there a way we can just shorten that window and still accomplish our operating window and still accomplish all the testing that we need to get done in that time period? So we did shorten it to 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., but that's our interpretation right now. So your second question.
Okay, that is related to the Colorado Public Utilities Commission, and if they will have jurisdiction over all, I think it's 16 or 18 crossings, or will it just be highways? I think all of the major Colorado highways are grade separated along Genova. But my concern is how they were filing the quiet zone. I think there's one crossing on Lowell in Adams County that needs to be a quiet zone. So I'm concerned about that and how long it will take the PUC to go through their requirements.
Okay, to summarize that question, it was about the PUC authority over the grade crossings. Is it all the grade crossings on the G line? And the answer to that is yes. So whether it's a highway or a street, that's just the terminology that's used. So any grade crossing is under the PUC jurisdiction to approve it according to its design and performance. And then in our case, it falls under FRA regulation after that, unless we make any changes. Now, the quiet zone, so this is where it gets challenging with the dual regulatory paths. The quiet zone rules are all under the Federal Railroad Administration. And so, but they both have to have the approvals in place. So we can't get the quiet zones until the PUC is approved, done their final approval through the commission.
We have to DTP question with John?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm looking at the clock, and we have time for, actually, I'm out of time, and we're going to need to move on to another thing. So I would welcome John up for one question. John?
Hi, John.
Where am I? Okay.
You're suing RTD and seeking $80 million. What makes up that $80 million?
Okay. The scope of today's, this is a commercial matter between the two entities at the moment that we're pursuing there, and that's not within the scope of what we brought you here today to talk about. That will be progressed. There's a process for that. I think, we've just got to recognize that this is something we've got to work our way through together, and that I want to get to this huge building block that Dave has referred to, that will get the G line open, and that to enjoy the kind of the operating performance and the ridership that we've experienced on the A and the B line.
The money would come from taxpayers, so I think they should know at least.
That will come in due course.
Yeah, so it's true, we have a commercial dispute, and we're working through that. But I can tell you that our project teams are focused on the project and delivering the project, and while the commercial dispute is there, it's really secondary to us delivering the G line and getting our quiet zones and getting our work done and delivering the service. And I'm going to wrap it at, well, John, you haven't had an opportunity. I'll give you one more question.
Yeah, the PTC cutouts, Technological Aid software upgrade, I think it was called, that would be the first quarter of next year that would take care of that issue. I'm just curious, if it's a line of sight issue with GPS, how would a software upgrade actually have a improving effect on that?
So the questions around the plan, software update, and if it's a software update, how does line of sight fall into all of that? The software update is going to do a variety of things. One of them is going to reduce the number of what we call PTC cutouts that the system has. And so when PTC is not cut out, we always get a wireless activation, and so it's typically an activation that falls within the buffer time. It's when PTC is cut out that we may get a conventional activation and have a longer activation time. But again, as I said, we'll be happy to do a future technical session, but there's a variety of things that software upgrade does. PTC cutouts, some GPS improvements, and other things.
So would it just reduce cutouts or would it eliminate them?
It's going to reduce them. I mean, I don't think that we'll ever be able to get to a 0% PTC cutouts. I don't know of a system in the country that could. So I really want to thank all of you for coming and choosing to spend some time here and hearing from us directly. I appreciate all of your questions and all of your information and following our work and our projects. And I will leave you with that. Thank you.